The Ukrainian public organization Center for Civil Liberties received the Nobel Peace Prize, together with two more laureates, the Belarusian organization Vyasna and the Russian organization Memorial. Ukrainian human rights activists immediately stated that such a result of the award cannot mean a Russian narrative about fraternal peoples. It suggests that human rights cannot be violated in only one country. The whole world will feel the consequences.
This story is about this, a story about a slogan that I heard from my teacher, the dissident and philosopher Yevhen Sverstyuk. This story is about your freedom and ours. Ales Belarusian has been sent to prison for the second time precisely because he created an organization that monitored the election in Belarus in 1996. The organization recorded all crimes in prisons, including tortures, submitted to the Human Rights Committee the stories of Lukashenko's political opponents, whom he killed and imprisoned. And now we have Lukashenko as Putin's assistant, our civilian prisoners of war on the territory of Belarus, whom were taken from Chernihiv and Kyiv, who are tortured, detained, deported. And such grandiose organizations as the Memorial undertook to make all the crimes of the Stalinist period obvious, and the Ukrainians, especially dissidents, know how much of the flower of our nation were killed in those camps like no one else.
Ukraine's success in the Russian-Ukrainian war will give a chance for a democratic future for Russia and Belarus themselves, as well as other countries in the region, according to the head of the Ukrainian Center for Civil Liberties in Oslo, where human rights activists were awarded. This was also the opinion of the Nobel Prize Committee when it was presenting the award. The executive director of the Nobel Peace Prize Center, Kjersti Flogstad, said, "Unfortunately, Russian society didn't have the strength to break the traditions of state violence. The state has been destroying any solidarity between people for 70 years. It ended up that the fight against nationalism and Banderism became the ideological justification and a propaganda support for the insane war of conquest against Ukraine. Yes, we tried to resist the erosion of historical memory and legal consciousness. We documented the crimes of the past and present, but did our work prevent the catastrophe of February 24th?
When we talk about war, we must always understand that war has different manifestations. It is an open aggression, it is the destruction of a country, the seizure of territory, the killing of people, and all these horrors that occur with all this armed seizure of territory. But at the same time, we should not forget about Belarus, where a different kind of war is going on, a war hidden and invisible to many. The population is so strangled and crushed that it almost does not have its own voice. People in Ukraine want peace most of all, but peace does not come when the country that was attacked lays down its arms, because it is not peace, it's occupation. The democratic world is accustomed to making concessions to dictators. We will not leave people in the temporarily occupied territories by Russia to get killed and tortured. People's lives are not a political compromise. We need a new world order architecture.
Ukrainian human rights activist Alexandra Matvichuk was included in the ranking of 25 influential women in the world, according to the Financial Times. The Ukrainian Center for Civil Liberties has been documenting Russian war crimes in Ukraine for almost 9 years. The focus of the work is documenting and assisting in the investigation of illegal captivity, torture, sexual violence, killing of civilians, political persecution in the temporarily occupied territories. The human rights activists of the organization, not without the help of Russian and Belarusian colleagues, are trying to gain access to captured and deported Ukrainians, both military and civilian. Throughout the years of its work, the center has sent reports on crimes against humanity to the UN, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the European Parliament. Recognition came only now, after a full-scale invasion by Russia. Ukrainian human rights activists plan to use it to the maximum at the tribunal against those responsible for the war senselessly unleashed by Russia. Reported by Pavel Stelmach, Yulia Bezborodko, UATV News.